So let's look at an example problem where we can apply this midpoint formula to find the middle of two different points, or the midpoint of a specific line segment. So we have points A and B, where A is at the coordinate -1 comma -9, and B is at 2 comma 4. And we want to use this midpoint formula to find the midpoint of this. So it's going to be somewhere in the middle of the line segment, though we need the formula to find out exactly where that is. And remember, this formula is written very generally, where you have two random coordinate points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. And remember the general idea of the midpoint formula, that you essentially want to find the average of the x values and the average of the y values. Or in other words, you're finding the middle x value and the middle y value. So this is, remember, the average of the x values. And likewise, this right here is the average of the y values. So to use this formula, we just need to label the points x1, y1, and x2, y2. And it doesn't matter which one you do which. So we'll call this x1, which means this would have to be y1. And that makes this x2 and this y2. So let's now just plug these into our formula. So we can say the midpoint, we are going to add the two x values together and then cut them in half. So that's, remember, the general strategy for finding the average of two numbers. You add them together and then divide by 2. So we can take x1, which is 2, plus x2, which is -1, and cut that in half. And likewise, we'll do the same for the y values. We take y1, which is 4, we add that to y2, which is -9, and we'll cut that in half. And now we just simplify. So 2 plus -1, that is 1. So we get 1/2 for our x value of our midpoint. And 4 plus -9, or 4 minus 9, that is -5. And we'll cut that in half. And of course, if we want, we could write this as a decimal. So 1/2, that is 0.5. And -5/2, that's -2.5. So let's now plot this point. So it's at 0.5 for x and -2.5, so right there, for y. And you can visually see that this point is right in the middle of A and B. So that is the midpoint of the line segment AB. Now, if you want a way to check that you're doing this correctly, it might be helpful to draw out little lines and consider x and y individually. So for instance, for our x coordinate, if we were to draw out a number line, we were looking at the points -1 and 2. And we found that 0.5 was right in the middle. So if this was truly the middle, or the average of the two numbers, that means the same distance is on either side of that number. So if we find the distance between -1 and 0.5, that's just 1.5. Now, my claim is that for this to be truly the midpoint, that from 0.5 to 2, it has to be the same distance away. And that's the case. They are both 1.5 away from 0.5. So this is a way to check that you did indeed find the correct average. And we can do the same thing if we look at y. We could draw out a line for this, and typically y is vertical, but it's okay to write it horizontally here. And we're looking at the middle of -9 and 4. So we found a value of -2.5. So it should be the same distance going in either direction to either -9 or 4. And so we can find that distance by just subtracting 4 minus -2.5, that is 6.5, and -2.5 minus -9, or +9, that is also 6.5. So because it's the same value on either side, you know for sure that minus 2.5 is in the middle of these two numbers.